Dobry den, как вы поживаете, and welcome to our show. I'm here, and so is Mike Makilovich Jones. Hello, Mike.
Yes. Yes. Good evening, comrade.
Over my shoulder, there are some words in the Russian language have worked their way into ours, especially the political lexicon, and one of them is apparatchik. And it just reminds me, since we're going to have Cheryl Walker on our show tonight, apparatchik, as you know, is a kind of a political minion, and they do monitor our show. So I thought I might just say hello to them and in Russian, and also put a phrase over my shoulder, that you will recognize from the days of Ronald Reagan when I was just two, and that Peggy Noonan, his speechwriter, wrote for, and trust but verify. Verify, no proverify. This is something that I don't trust these county commissioners, and over my other shoulder is the reason why, because as you saw at the end of last night's show, right after lecturing us about, we're not unethical at all, here they are over in the corner in plain view talking about county business with Pat Fahey. Pat Fahey is not breaking the law, but they are. Yes, Mike?
Yes. Trust but verify. Listen, even Reagan didn't trust these people. He just, that's diplomatic speak for we don't trust you at all. Oh, we trust you fine, but we're going to verify everything you tell us.
Right, right. By the way, the other lady that's there with Pat Fahey, my understanding is she works in the finance office. I think that's true. It was interesting to me that when I got up and gave a little speech about how we're really going to need to move into the future, and how we can't really trust these guys. That was from 2 nights ago. Can't really trust these guys, and so we're going to have to do it on our own. She was there with Art Harvey. They were just laughing their heads off. Really. Thanks, Art. The one that says that we're those of us who question government are morons, and she was yucking it up with him. So here's Pat Fahey talking with the county commissioners about the Association of ONC Counties. Nice. So we will have some footage for you this evening, but this is actually the wrong saying, trust but verify, because we don't trust them in the first place. The one that should be up here is one that you will recognize from the Tom Clancy novel, and I will tell you what it says because, well, I used to do this kind of stuff for all of you. My Chinese is non-existent, as is my Arabic now. But it was necessary for me to be able to get along at least basically in Russian. And what this says is, it's kind of funny, I think. It's funny as it is, isn't it, Mike?
Oh, yeah, it's hilarious.
Yes, it's hilarious. Okay, so it says, "Ya technique bome." Sorry, my terrible Russian. I am a bomb technician. Not Russian nuclear technician, as some people say. You can see technique bomb. Okay.
Yeah.
I am a bomb technician. Esli viditek što ya begu. If you see me running, which the commissioners are doing, popробуйте поймать меня. Try to keep up.
That's unfortunately, though, the type of bombs that they're talking about running is not going to help you.
This is timely because the city council recently said, they said it on KJO, you may recall this, those of you who watch our show are going to be rewarded with this, and write this down. They said that when people get up and they make comments about this awful idea of a sales tax, that we're bomb throwers.
Yeah.
Now, I ask you, we'll have this on tomorrow night. Who are the real bomb throwers? Those who are questioning the future of our city and our county and what they're doing to business, or those who may end up destroying business, Mike?
Yeah, of course. That's a no-brainer. It's odd how they see it the other way around, them being the 20%. see themselves as being the majority, or they see themselves operating in some world where what the majority thinks doesn't make any difference.
Well, watch tonight as we play it back for you. Watch the commissioners running as fast as they can away from both Simon Hare. Oh, it's the responsibility of the citizens. We can't do anything. We cannot possibly say you are no longer going to be allowed to go up there because you're no longer the liaison. Of course they can. Of course they can in an instant. Don't buy this stuff. Well, there's nothing we can do. Nah, that's not true. They may not want to go to those meetings themselves, but there's no reason they cannot say to Simon Hare, no, you're no longer the liaison. You can't represent us at a place like that. It's too important. And, you know, you've been in jail, bud, and that's why you missed a meeting. Of course they can do that. And,
I don't think they're going to do that, though.
No, they're not.
You know what? I don't think
they're lying to you. And also they're running away from, and what tonight is about is part 2 of 2 of trying to pretend as if the state has not found them guilty of anything. And you can once again vote on this, maybe not every night, but you have your feelings about it and you can share them with us. And boy, did we get a lot of responses last night. So Mike, go ahead and let's start off with Cheryl Walker explaining why nothing is true in this life.
I would like to add to Commissioner Heck that agenda item, other matters from the commissioners, has been on the agenda for as long as we can determine, at least 12 years.
She starts off with just a big lie. I mean, and it's so easily checked. Well, I guess if you're going to lie and live that way, you might as well lie big. That's simply not true.
I just think that she doesn't think that anybody's going to check on it, or no one of consequence. In other words, she doesn't care if you look at it, because she probably comes in and you know, counts the numbers on the video and go, well, you know, if 50 people know about it, it's no big deal, because we're talking about a county of 85,000 people.
Yeah, but the only problem is it must be some of the right 50 people. If that's the case.
Well, yeah. Listen, I'm all I'm trying to do is get behind her eyeballs and you know, try and rationalize this thing, because I can't figure out. I mean, why would you want to do that? Why would you? Yeah. So that's as close as I can come. So there you go. Merry Christmas.
And 12 years. Why not 13? Why not 50 years? Why not 112 years? I mean, if you're going to make something, where's 12 years come from? It's ludicrous. And if these numbers came from Wally Hicks, shame on you, Wally Hicks, because it's simply not true. It's not at all true. They were not doing this. We know what date. We know because the state knows, because we've turned in that evidence to the state. They started with matters from commissioners, which the state was laughing about, saying that it's really some kind of guise that they were doing to try to get away with something. They started on September 25th, 2013. Is that specific enough for you, Cheryl Walker? 2 p.m. And they did it for a long time, and they said they stopped it before they stopped it. They did not. And so this thing of, oh, well, it's been there for 12 years, it's just completely made up. I just don't understand how people can listen to that kind of stuff and not press this one. This is ridiculous. It's a complete and utter lie, and it's just, well, it's baffling to me. Go ahead, Mike.
So it's been through several boards. And it was put there by legal counsel. The other thing is that the reason it was...
Whoops. Okay. It's not been there for several boards. It's another lie. It's just a big, big lie. Okay. And it was not put there. It was not put there by other boards, and it wasn't put there by legal counsel either. This was started by Simon Hare. It's not legal counsel that decides everything that goes on that. He does sometimes, but not all of them. And they're trying to throw him under the bus, and it's not fair. A lot of things would be fair about Wally, but not fair about this.
Yeah,
so
he doesn't seem to be protesting this at all. No. I mean, perhaps since, you know, no one's looking at him from the ethics department, that, you know, he's okay with being thrown under the bus, because The only way in which he's actually thrown under the bus is by these guys saying that. It's not going to be a matter of the record anywhere that he is the one who was at fault. It's not going to be reported in the news that Wally Hicks is the violator of ethics. So Wally Hicks perhaps has made a calculated thing here and decided, well, I'll go ahead and let them say that because there's nothing on the record about that anywhere.
Now, since it was September 25th, 2013, it actually would have begun with Steve Rich. And I can believe that there are a number of things Steve Rich has said, like there's one of them he said is, it's best for you not to know certain things. I've got to paraphrase on this because the exact wording is not coming to mind. And therefore, you have plausible deniability.
Yeah,
about
ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss, right? And about county safety. It's better if you don't know, because that happened surrounding that thing about that unfortunate woman that took a header off of something that was supposed to be investigated by the county, and somebody didn't do a very good job, and so she's going to go up against the county saying, aren't you supposed to keep things safe? Yes, that's part of it. And then Steve Rich was telling him, well, if you don't know when something's unsafe, then you can't be held to blame for it. So don't ask.
Well, I could see, but there's a difference between not knowing and willful ignorance.
Yes. Yes.
You know, I mean,
exactly right.
Some might call that negligent.
Somebody might call that negligent. That's right. And that's one reason why you don't want real reporters in the executive sessions. Go ahead, Mike.
The other thing is that the reason it was on there was because an agenda has to be published 24 hours prior. If something happened in that intervening 12 hours, maybe we received a summons or a notice of a lawsuit or notice of a tort claim or something like that, or some personnel matter that came up that cannot be discussed publicly, that was where it would be discussed.
Well, that sounds perfectly reasonable, doesn't it? Nobody's arguing that. Nobody has ever argued that. The State Ethics Commission would never argue that, of course.
Right, but she's trying to make the case that if something like that came up and there wasn't a catch-all phrase on the agenda, that there would be no way they could possibly legally discuss it, and so therefore it would have to be put off until the next session, which of course is stupid, but that's what she's trying to conjure as an excuse.
And remember, this is the same lady who said, when they were talking about the about charter cable, saying, you guys are taking this money in, and we're charging money to the citizens of Josephine County. Well, sorry, not Illinois Valley. We're charging them cable fees, and they're supposed to be getting public access, not just government access. And so you really do need to report this, how you're using this, because you're not really telling us at all. I mean, you say you're doing it, but you're not. It's fake. It's a guise. Okay. And Cheryl Walker said, oh my gosh, that means then if there was an emergency like an earthquake, why, we couldn't even go on cable TV and warn anybody because we'd have to notice it ahead of Cheryl, that's not what it means. And that's not what it means. And this is not, of course, if there's something that comes up, it won't be on the agenda. It can't be on the agenda at all. If it's an emergency, you're not expected to have it on the agenda if it's an emergency. That's not what this was about, and the state wasn't fooled, and we're not fooled, are we? What a load. Mike?
In the 3 years that I've been here, I don't know that we've ever discussed anything more than maybe 3 things. I mean, I went back through my records trying to find where we'd ever discussed anything. It was hardly anything at all.
Records. I don't even believe that. I know she writes down things that people that she really hates are saying so that she can respond to it in some way. But I don't think she's back there keeping a redundant copy of the minutes.
I would the reason that we definitely wanted to have these flames on the side, especially today, was Cheryl Walker. She just makes stuff up. I mean, it's just completely made up. And the reason that we know that for sure, even if you're not absolutely sure because you haven't seen the records, the state has. They've seen all of the records. They know how often they went into executive session and what they discussed. The state had to subpoena the records. And as I've said before, you don't have to subpoena something if they're turning it over willingly. They had to force them by law to give them the records. And what they found in the records is what she just told you is a big Hollywood sign sized lie. How do you feel about a commissioner that's doing that and talking to you? There's no salvation for that kind of person. You can't give him a list of rules saying, don't lie through your teeth. It's not going to work. Mike, let's talk about that for a moment.
I have to be honest. I'm not greatly possessed with passion about this anymore because I've talked about it like 50 times. So I know who this person is. And I realize for the purpose of the show, we're trying to reiterate that. It's very difficult to conjure. It's like, yes, I know this person is, I know she's a liar. I know that. And so there you have it. That's I don't know what to say.
The reason, one of the reasons we do this show is you guys have asked us to hold them accountable. And so when they do this, we could say, oh, they did it again and just let it at that, but we're detailing it for you. Some of you may be watching the show for the first time. Some of you maybe are going to talk with your neighbor. Some of you have taken up the suggestion that I gave you, please talk to somebody that's younger than, gray hair, right? And tell them some of these things that are happening because sooner or later they'll be voters. Okay.
Right. The only point that I'm making is that my function on this show is totally different than Dale's. Dale brings the news. I respond to it. And in order for me to respond to it and for it to be new and for my reaction to be genuine and everything, it's got to be news. This is not news.
Oh, that's awful. That's awful, Mike. Yes, but I understand your point.
Yeah. Listen, I already know who these people are. I've been sitting here for a while. I've watched this stuff come in. I've had enough time to react and then be objective about it and look at it and go, yeah, I pretty well got these people figured out. They're part of the 20%. What do you do with that? It's just, okay, there's somebody else that's over in that category. I know how to vote come November of this next year. Hopefully we can primary these people out so that we're not choosing between Cheryl and the rest of the whoever is left in the field there. Hopefully we can prime and just eliminate her. And the same thing with Keith. These are bad eggs. And then we may even have the opportunity to get rid of Simon and put somebody else in his place. That would be Merry Christmas 2016.
Yeah. I shouldn't be surprised by seeing this kind of stuff. One of the things that surprised both of us, I believe, is that they could have just stepped out that door right there and we wouldn't have seen them.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, well, I think they're just so arrogant about this. On some level, they don't realize it because this practice is so common to them that, because Dale's not there all the time. Dale's there a very little smidgen of the time just when they're having public meetings. They're doing stuff in that office all day, every day. That we're not privy to, and I bet you they're breaking the law half the time there. I mean that's stretching it, but I just see how these people are. He obviously listen. Cheryl's standing there, and she's lectured us on a number of occasions how knowledgeable she is about the law. Well, there she is, right there. She obviously doesn't think this is a violation of the law.
Or doesn't care.
or doesn't care. So what's her explanation for this? What is her explanation for that picture over Dale's left shoulder? I came over there to tell them that what they were doing was in violation of the law. She'll probably say something like that. Or we weren't talking about that. We were talking about hamburgers. Yeah.
Well, I sent you a full screenshot of that as well, if you want to put that up for people who may have some trouble seeing. If you're looking at this on a little cell phone thing, that might be a little hard to see. No, not that one. That's not full screen. No, I sent you a still.
Oh, okay.
A still photo.
I don't. Yeah. I will get that loaded and get back to you. Sure.
That's okay. I just was thinking the convenience of our viewers. Yeah, it's one of those things where they're just not going to do it. They're just not going to do it. And here you've got a couple other people who are with them that do know that there's been some kind of problems, because they were just talking about it at this meeting about open public meeting law. Pat Fahey was the chairman of the budget committee. So, I mean, there are rules about this. And I told the budget committee, remember, Pat Fahey is the one that said, Dale Matthews gets up and he never says anything about the budget. Really? I got up and I said, how do you all feel about the fact that half of your members, that's the 3 county commissioners, broke the budget law yesterday? And the way that they did that is they are forbidden by law, and they're warned by the finance people. Do not discuss the budget committee. Once the budget's out and the budget committee starts running, don't discuss any of the details at all in this room. You must do it during the budget meetings. You have to. It's state law. And there's strict penalties on that one. And there they were. We caught them doing it. And I asked the budget committee, and with Pat Fahey as the chair, how do you feel about that? You know the sound effect that goes along with that? Crickets in the corner. Well, there's Pat Fahey. He's looking surprised.
I don't, I might have some crickets. I'm not sure.
That's okay. But, yep, there they are. I'm astounded. I'm putting words in his mouth. I'm astounded that people would accuse you of wrongdoing, Ms. Walker. Yeah. Thank you very much, Pat Fahey. Okay, so he didn't even know when people are talking to him about this kind of stuff. These are the same guys where I said Simon Hare has said that, the sheriff has been padding his budget. This is the budget committee. What do you have to say about that? And Simon lied. One of the reasons we know that they're breaking the law on a constant basis is because we have a source inside the courthouse. And somebody might say, oh, don't give up that person. One of the 2 sources is Simon Hare. Every once in a while, he has enough is enough attitude, and he tells us what's happening. He's one of our sources. Yep, they talk to each other today about some stuff and how they're going to vote on it. It's not really that different than sending emails to the secretary, who then turns around and tells the other commissioner, and that commissioner sends her an email, and she talks to the first one. The reason behind it isn't that you need 15 commissioners. You need 3 honest commissioners. That's all. You're just not supposed to do that. That's all. It's really simple. Talk about business in front of the bosses. We're the bosses. Just do it that way. It's not. It doesn't take a manual that you have to wear around your neck, like the Torah or something. You don't need to have that with you at all moments, rubbing up against your skin to tell you what to do. You don't need it mounted on your forehead. For our Jewish friends, that's not necessary for this. All that you need to do is just follow the law. It's really simple. Do your business in front of the bosses. That's all. Play the next clip, please, while she tries to explain her way out of this.
But it's important for people to remember that when it comes to ethics board, the ethics violations, anyone can file an ethics complaint against anybody. And there are a few people in this community who have decided that we'll just keep filing ethics complaints. Just keep filing ethics complaints. All of them, until this point in time, have been dismissed.
So, Mike, would you take that one on? Because I've done a lot of blathering already in this one.
Okay. Well, this one wasn't. So, and apparently the only reason why many of the other ethics complaints have fallen on deaf ears with the ethics board is that they only deal with ethics complaints that have to do with executive session for some reason. And there's something else that they deal with there, but
Financial dealings, finance.
okay, finance, okay, and executive session. That's it. The rest of the things, are they breaking the law? Yeah, they are. Do they care? No, they don't care at all. And so they do, have put up a, little facade that they care in some way. And Dale and I have both speculated on this, and the conclusion that we've come to is the only reason why they're doing this is that the ethics board has sort of egg on its face from not keeping an eye on matters in the government. And you had that whole situation with the governor and his fiance, and the influence peddling there. And so I guess they are going to make a show of being tough, and they'll probably do that for a year or something like that, and then they'll go back to not caring anymore.
Well, it's a lot of work. I'm not complaining about this, mind you. It's a lot of work to do what you want us to do, okay, which is hold these people accountable. And so we've gotten a bit of advice from people. Well, why don't you send them this video? Send them this video. Or when they're saying, we don't care what they say, or they haven't found us guilty. They haven't found us guilty. It's not really guilty. What does guilty mean in this life? Why, there's no such thing as permanent, okay? And why not send that to them? So we actually sort of, fell for that. And Sandy Casanelli put together a bunch more material about, and I supplied, some video and that kind of, and it's always there and available, and we could give them this. So you might ask, hey, if that's the case, they might want to know this at the Ethics Commission. Look at the way they're still doing it. They tell you we've learned a lesson and all we need is a letter of education. And then they're saying, we already know all this. Wouldn't the Ethics Commission want to know that? You would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think in their minds, we have we have made a product and it's complete. And so we're not going to go back and sand the corners and put some stain on it. It's a finished cabinet, and that's it.
But they're at the point now where they're handing out the penalties. And that should have an effect on the penalties, because if they say, we've learned our lesson, all we really need is some kind of letter of education, and then we'll know what to do. Like Cheryl just said, once they brought it to us, once our county attorney, who's supposed to represent you, by the way, once he brought it to us, why, then we said, whoops, as Keith X, whoops, we never meant to do that.
I think it's that we believe somehow that we're dealing with a commission that is interested in justice. And it's funny because there's a YouTube clip going around of some gal is in a courtroom, and the judge is discussing what her sentence is going to be. And he tells her, you need to such and such, go over here and pay whatever. And she, gives the flips the judge the bird and says F you or something like that to the judge. And the judge says, okay, come back over here. Now you're going to spend 30 days in jail. What? And then she flips out and is okay, come back over here. Now you're going to spend 60 days in jail. And we expect that that's what this is. No, this is, they are checking a box. Done. Ethics complaint from Josephine County. Finished.
They never wanted to do
that's
it in the
what they're
place.
Doing.
And Cheryl just confirmed that they never wanted to do that in the first place. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
And the official response that Sandy got back from the state is, we will not, even if you took it and added it to the file for future generations to take a look at, they won't do that. They don't even want to add it to the round file. They don't want it.
Well, So there you go. There, it's administrative bureaucracy and not, I mean, like the judge in this scenario that I'm telling you about. He wants that gal when he's done with her to straighten up and fly right, and it would have been fine given the penalty that he gave her to begin with, but she decided to go ahead and disrespect the court on top of that. So, he laid down these people don't care about that. Obviously, this is what's going on. I'm considering the evidence before us. That's the
Right.
determination I have to come to.
Well, we pointed out 100 times. When you see this kind of stuff going on right in front of you, there is another court, the court of public opinion. It's really up to us. We can't expect that. The state's not going to do anything. This is a huge surprise to both Sandy and I. And people have said, well, are you going to continue filing? Well, of course we're going to continue filing. Is it going to do any good? No, absolutely not. But at least it's on record, okay? When Art Harvey was here, 646 violations and one election that he just totally ignored. And when she and I went to go see him, he said, well, you can always file with the state. This is Art Harvey, the one that said that we're morons for questioning government. Okay? That's who used to be here. All we can do is outlive these guys. Okay? In this case, here they are doing this. The state doesn't want to know about it. Well, of course they don't want to know about it, because how can you give a letter of education to somebody that refuses to be educated and say we don't need to be educated anyway? So it just muddies the water. It just makes them look ridiculous to give these guys a letter of education when they're uneducatable in whatever language you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is that the people on the ethics commission don't care whether they've learned anything, because they're also checking a box when they send the letter.
That's correct.
We checked the box. So we sent the letter. Okay, we're done. Now that's in the finished file. Now we'll go take somebody else, bring them in, find them guilty or innocent or whatever, check that box, done with that. And then we're moving on. This is how this situation works.
Now it's up to you, to click on a box. You can click on a box. You can. Or a little self-promotion here. Sorry, that happens every once in a while. You can click on another kind of box once May gets here. Now, you can click on a box where you're going to pick more of the same, different name, same person, right? I mean, because to me, Cheryl Walker is Dave Toller in pantyhose, okay? So you can click on a box that's going to give you exactly the same kind of people. And, maybe Pat Fahey will run, and you can vote for him. Or you might vote for some of the people who are bringing this to you. Or you could vote for people who are in this room and don't say anything. 2 other candidates were in the room. They had nothing to say. 2 other candidates for commissioner were in the room. They got nothing to say. And if that's the kind of representation that some people want, you got it. In fact, you're going to probably, by the time the election comes around, you'll have 24 examples of people who will do exactly that.
Yeah, there's going to be plenty of more of same. You just hope that in the field there's a few that are not.
Mike got up and talked. I got up and talked. Sandy Casanelli got up and talked. She's not running for anything. Okay, so and she's a county commissioner where they pushed her out for voting no all the time, but she didn't. She voted yes 90% of the time. That's a pretty good record, in my opinion. But they pushed her out for voting no all the time. Really? See, so it's really a huge pack of just nothing but lies. And it is possible to do something about it. We were just talking today. What was that? The very, very least that could be done if there's just one person in there. What was that thing, Mike? Do you remember that? I think it's about memory or remembering things when nobody else does. I'm making fun of myself. What was that thing that one could at least do this?
You're asking me to remember something I said yesterday.
Good. Okay. No,
I don't.
Not that.
You know what? I can't tell you what it was, but I can tell you it was brilliant.
Yes, that's what it was. Yes. Okay. Yeah, because we're going to go see that movie tomorrow. No, it can't be true. Yeah. I don't remember what we're talking about. Okay,
Yes.
next clip, please. Star Wars reference.
And I will say also that the findings that were issued, it wasn't a final decision of guilt. It was the findings that was adopted by the ethics board, and then we're offered
Watch her finger.
opportunity for a hearing. We haven't had a hearing yet.
Okay, all right. So she did the fingers there once. She'd been doing the fingers. She gives us the finger, but she does this fingers thing. The findings. Why are they findings like this, Mike? Why?
Well, obviously because that's saying it's only because somebody's saying it. It doesn't really mean that it's true.
But the power behind this is they could theoretically, if they threw the book at him, they could spend time in jail. And so what Simon Harris is now going to say, they did a sobriety test, and then they stopped me because I almost ran into somebody, and they said I was drunk, and so they put me in jail. Okay.
Yeah, they had a whole Saturday Night Live skit thing that repeated there for a while. That it was, I think it was I can't remember the guy's name. Big guy.
John Belushi?
No, you're going way back.
Oh, sorry.
You're going back to the beginning. I'm talking about boy. Okay.
Adam and Eve. I don't remember that.
I can't remember his name right now. It doesn't matter.
Chris
Farley.
Yeah, Chris Farley. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's wiped from my memory. And so she's making light, and the Ethics Commission doesn't want to know that they're laughing at them and us. They're laughing at all of us. What are you going to do about it? It's just these people that are constantly filing. They're constantly filing. There's nothing behind it. Nobody's ever done anything about it. Nobody ever will. We're going to get a letter. Big deal. Okay, well, we're going to remind you that there are things that you can do about this. And if you love that kind of person, why? Go ahead and vote for them and don't click on any of these. Okay? Go ahead, Mike.
So there's no guilt in regards to that. They adopted findings.
Well, Mike, there's no guilt.
Yeah, okay. Hey, listen, case closed, it summed it right up. It was very concise. Okay, listen, so this is going to be our last show because there's no guilt.
Right. No guilt. Hey, the thing is that we'll go to meeting after meeting, this, okay? And sometimes there's just nothing that happens. And then there are other meetings where it's like we're stopping it after every sentence. And it almost always involves Cheryl Walker. And she can do, in a paragraph, she'll say 8 outrageous things that are completely false, completely made up. And Keith is over there. I mean, you got to look at him every once in a while. He's going, harumph, harumph. Yeah, yes. I didn't get a harumph out of that guy. Yeah, harumph, harumph, harumph. And it's lunatic. And I guess they must think that we're stupid. Well, no, we're not. We're watching. Go ahead, Mike.
I take it to serious question the findings.
If you want to continue to all the gestures, you can leave, Mr. Matthews. If you want to sit and listen, that's great. I have no problem with that at all. But please refrain from your displays. Thank you.
Now, what the heck is he talking about here, Mike? What do you think is happening? Well, we've already talked about the bunny rabbits.
Well, you were gesturing, and he didn't like that. And
one time, I went like this because she keeps saying that. Now I invite all of our, just for your viewing pleasure, let's count the number of times. We'll point it out. Mike and I will point it out together in unison because there's 2 of them. Every time that she does this, and it's not okay for me to sit there quietly and point out the fact that, and I've got my hands down like this, and I'm doing like this, okay? Once. This just driving him crazy. Why is he even noticing me? Why bother? I gotta say, I will use a topical reference. It's like, why in the world is the front runner of the Republicans paying attention to someone who's got a 2% rating? Why? Why are you letting that get under your skin? Just move on. You've got like 41%. Why are you bothering with someone that's at 2%? That guy's really bugging you, isn't he? Okay, you know what I'm talking about. So, I mean, even if you like that guy, why bother? Okay. And if we mean nothing and nobody's watching the show and you're not watching the show, and as Wally Hicks says, you're not watching videotape because it's not on videotape, why bother? So if I want to sit there and go like this or go like this or go like this, what difference does it make to you? Obviously, we're getting to them. And the same thing with the city council. Wait till tomorrow night. Oh, brother, the city council is way overreacting to everything. And if you find it irritating like this, imagine how irritating it is to play back their videos when it shows that they're just lying through their teeth. That's one of the things we do. We're holding them accountable. Some people hate that. Go ahead, Mike.
The interesting thing about the findings is that during those executive sessions, all three commissioners were in the room, except myself on the last one. I was not there. I was out of town. No, I went to a meeting. I wasn't out of town. I went to a meeting. I was gone. Anyway, I was not at the last one. All three commissioners were in the room. There was a secretary in the room. The legal counsel was in the room, both of them, assistant legal counsel and legal counsel. For two of them that I recall, we had our human resources manager in the room. And for all of them, there was a reporter in the room.
Well, besides the fact that that last part is wrong because the records do not indicate that. Hello, Cheryl Walker, the records do not indicate that. Okay? So you are not borne out by the facts. All right? That's one. The other thing is, it doesn't matter how many people were in the room. It could have been filled with 1,000 people. What happened was that the state looked at what you did and what you said, and they said, you have broken the law. And it doesn't take a testimony from every person in the room that did not offer any testimony, although they were asked if they wanted to offer testimony. They didn't. And you instructed your lawyer not to offer any testimony, even from you, even by telephone. So the idea that everybody in the room wasn't queried doesn't matter because they know what you did.
Yeah, they had the opportunity to defend themselves and they decided to opt out. I mean, who do you want to blame for that? And she's just mischaracterizing the whole nature of that meeting. Oh, well.
Well, they got a secretary in the room. So what? The secretary's taking notes. Oh, the legal counsel was in the room. It doesn't matter. The state looked at it and looked at your results and read through the transcript, and just based on the transcript, which is not word for word, it never has been for the county, just based on the transcript, which is an abbreviated version of everything, I get up and speak and they'll say, Mr. Matthews spoke on the subject. Wow, boy, stop the presses, right? And so they write this kind of stuff down, and the state looked at it and go, they were laughing. They called it a guise. That these guys are trying to fool us and them. So to have people in the room, well, they could testify that we talked about matters from commissioners. Yes, that's illegal. You're using it as a guise. Oh, but they could testify that we were. Oh, good. How's that going to help you? It's illegal. Go ahead, Mike.
They were just referring to the guys in the room. Come on, Dale.
Oh, gals and guys. Yeah, I get it.
Yes. Yes. Oh, you want more video, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Here we go. Yes.
So all of those people that were in the room saw and heard what occurred, but the investigator...
Yeah. They all saw it. They all saw it, Mike. And then the investigator put on little bunny ears and hopped around the room.
And what does she mean by that? Is she denigrating the integrity of the investigator, or is she trying to point out that there was an investigator that was? I don't know. Perhaps she doesn't really understand what she's doing.
It's her technique and Keith's of trying to minimize the effectiveness of this by saying, well, it's just little people. They're always putting in complaints, and then the state gets involved and they assign an investigator who then finds that we've violated the law, and then now we're found guilty, and now we're going to have to pay a penalty.
So, jeez.
Does it seem to you as if they've learned? Well, you know they haven't learned a lesson. Look at this.
Well, there's a reason why Saturday Night Live was mocking this back in the 90s. There is because it's really stupid. And, you know, I do it myself when I'm trying to, you know, give the idea that, you know, this is a quote from somebody. That's, you know. Well, anyway.
And look, and you saw Keith's response when I just did that. You know, I did it once. He didn't like it. Did not like it. And then she continued doing it all the time because she's trying to belittle the entire process. They're in trouble. Okay, they're not going to go to jail. Simon Hare did just for one night. That's going to be it. Okay. But is he in trouble with the people? You know that he is, which is why I put up that display the other night of the atomic bomb blasts. This is the same thing. These guys are running as fast as they can away from this whole thing about ethics. And nobody even asked them about this. They just came up with this on their own. They just suddenly decided to talk about this. Why? Why are they going back and talking about this more? This is having some kind of effect. There are people in this community who are saying, these people are not ethical. Well, the very idea that somebody would say after 50 years, blah, 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 it is ethics. There they are. It's proof. You and your stupid camera, you just think that you can hold us accountable. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Mike.
From the state did not interview a single one of those people on any of those days of the meetings. Not one.
Yeah, because they didn't need to.
Not a single one, Mike. Let me say it real clipped and carefully in the lecturing kind of tone. Not a single one.
Yeah, but there's the reason why is that as I stated before, these people are just checking a box, and all they had to do was find the criteria that they needed to say these people are guilty of this, and they did find that. And all it comes down to, this is very, very simple. They put a notation on the agenda that didn't belong there. That's the violation. They can't say what they did in the meeting because they don't know. They can look at the minutes and get some idea of what they talked about, but they're not going to put on the minutes when they're in there talking about something embarrassing. So the only thing that the Ethics Commission was interested in doing was get this case, get it dealt with, and get it out the door. And that's what they did.
But Mike, here's Simon Hare was picked up for drunk driving by almost running into a police officer.
Right.
Nobody interviewed his father or mother. They didn't interview his childhood friends.
Yeah,
Did they talk with his grammar school teacher? I mean,
no,
really, they haven't interviewed all those people.
Right. The notation of matters from commissioners on the executive session agenda was them blowing over 0.08. That's what that was. And that was the only thing they were interested in. That's why they didn't bother interviewing anybody. And listen, they had the opportunity to put their testimony in there as something extra to possibly exonerate them. They didn't say anything. You know why? Because they knew that anything they said could and would have been used against them, and they would be better off not doing it. Like
that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah. Like that other guy that went there and said, I just wasted $1,000 probably on an attorney and gas coming there and whatever he lost for, not being where he was supposed to be that day, and it was probably better advice. The attorneys for the commissioners probably gave them good advice. And that is to don't go, don't say anything, because they probably or possibly could have dug their hole deeper, and all we're talking about here is a letter of reprimand, which means nothing. So
yeah, but also if you're a lawyer for hire, aren't they all? But what my point is, if you aren't interested in justice, well, aren't they all? Then you'd say, hey, listen, you always got plausible deniability because you can say they never interviewed me. You turned down the interview. They never interviewed me.
Yeah,
And so,
right.
And she's going to say in a minute, well, the reason why we're going to appeal this, which they're not, is because they never interviewed us. No, you can't have it both ways. You don't go, and that's the reason why you're appealing it.
Right.
What a trick. They can't trick us. We're watching them. They can't trick us.
Well, you know what? But see, this comes back to what I said before about them going, well, Dale's got this many views and there's this many people following it. And I'm okay with those people, believing what Dale says, and the rest of the people, I'm going to tell them this. And hey, I'm a commissioner. I'm telling you this. This is my credibility.
But here's the problem with all that logic. I understand you. The problem with that is, many, many, many more times people watch this show than watch the weekly business session.
Right. Yes, I understand that. But you know what?
Why say anything at all?
Yeah. No, listen, she'd be better off keeping her mouth shut. Well, her attorney obviously advised them to not say anything at this meeting. Yep. So they didn't have to do that, but she can't help herself. Her attorney is not there with a little thing in her ear saying, you should just let this one go, because that's what they could have done. They could have just allowed you to have your 3 minutes, and then, that would be the last anybody heard of it. They don't even mention it in their protected time, which, by the way, you know what? If there's one thing that I've learned from watching these commissioners, is that they do entirely too much reacting to the public. If they would be in a lot less hot water if they just didn't say anything, didn't respond at all to any of this, but they can't help themselves. I mean, Cheryl, when she gets something gets under her skin, she starts scribbling. She has to tell us all about it. And, so they made a display. It went on for probably 10 minutes, probably 5 minutes, Keith, and 5 minutes Cheryl, talking about this ethics stuff, when they really should have. I mean, if were I their attorney, I would have told them, just shut up, but they can't help themselves.
The city council is doing this now too. Okay, that they have their own rule. Oh, we're forbidden. It's your rule. What do you mean you're forbidden? You've decided that you cannot respond. So they don't. And then people go home, because sometimes the meetings last 2 hours, 3 hours.
Right. Yeah,
and then they say,
crazy.
oh, well, those people have gone home. Yeah, we've gone home, right? because to think that you're going to give us a response, you've already said that, 1, you're not going to, 2, you don't, and 3, we can always watch it on TV if we really want to, but it doesn't matter what blathery. Who do you think we're talking to? We're not talking to you. We might be asking you for an answer, but I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to you guys, right? That's why I go, to say the news to you. And then what they do, but they can't help themselves. Right at the very end, during their protected time, hey, that Dale Matthews doesn't know what he's talking about. Hey, that Sandy, those citizens, the 80% are just so full of it. And then remember, they spent maybe almost half an hour talking about how stupid the people were that didn't vote, the 80% that didn't vote for that sales tax. They're still doing it. And now they've decided that they're going to cut off, at least for now, public testimony. Any public questions.
Yeah, and I wonder why that is. Could it have any connection to our publicizing, their feelings about the 80%?
Yes,
I'm guessing.
They're getting a lot of heat from that, buddy. And Darren Fowler, the mayor, made it very clear. He said, "I definitely want to have this new policy in place before the election season." Now, what do you think that means? Who's running for election, Darren Fowler?
Yeah, and it isn't just that. It's this, he doesn't want to deal with the riffraff that is the public. So, you got to primary that guy too. He really needs to go. The problem is show me the candidate who's going to go in there and have some respect. I mean, because see, in Darren Fowler's world, he's a wonderful guy. Okay. In Darren Fowler's world, hey, listen, he went out of his way to try and do his very best to help out the city and make sure that they had the, all the little services that they needed to have, whether they wanted them or not. And So, he has total contempt for the citizens when they have some sort of a problem with what they put forth as a board. And
is it doing your very best when you're criticizing the 80% of the voters? That's just stupid politically.
Yeah, it's really, really dumb. But, they don't see it that way. They don't see it as the 80%. They think, and this is warped. They really don't. They don't see it that way, and this angers them when it's pointed out to them. No, in their minds, hey, we are representing the people. We are doing the people's bidding, because it's and Cheryl Walker said this the other day at the meeting. It's our job to put forth levies and stuff that the people don't want.
That's incredible.
She didn't add the part that the people don't want on the end, but that's essentially it. I mean, she was making the case that, hey, it's our job to throw all these things out there, and because they want money to spend, and that somehow that was their job. Listen, my vision of what I want in a commissioner has completely changed in the past couple of years. I think that the commissioners should mostly do nothing.
Yeah.
Because you know what, you have all of these. There are powers that be in this state that sling out legislation, and they fire it at all these boards of commissioners statewide and say, you need to be considering this.
They do. Well, they really do. I was there for a couple of those meetings.
Of course. So, and the stupid thing is that our commissioners just eat that up and go, oh, yeah, okay, well, what are we doing on this? Okay, let's just pass that. It's a great idea. Well, no, it isn't. And why don't you stop doing it? Listen, there's a real good reason to pay these people $30,000, because there would be almost nothing for you to do if you just stop slinging stuff out. Stop doing stuff. We don't listen. The more that they're doing stuff, the worse it is for the citizens here, because these guys are a bunch of.
I'm sorry. Apologies. I was there when they had that video teleconference, when they were telling these commissioners, look, we've given advice. This is your state. We've given this advice to other places that can't seem to pass a levy. What you need to do is you need to add something on there about the children. Hit the children real hard. Well, that doesn't sound right. But if you start talking about the children the next day, suddenly the sheriff was talking about, oh, and by the way, we're going to do such and such for the children. Oh, wow, that sounds like and it still didn't pass the levy, but they're marching to these orders from people who are saying, oh, you're not getting your citizens to turn around in a decade of this? Well, try this technique. Now, who do you think told Cheryl, oh, what a good idea it would be to have 4 little levies?
Yeah, well, because they know that you're not going to pass all of them, but you might pass 1 or 2, and you're getting a little bit more as opposed to getting absolutely nothing. And so they're finally coming around to that logic. And you know what? I suspect that at some point that may end up working for them.
Well, just talk with Tony Webb. She's suggesting a 99-cent levy. Now, they made it clear the last time that the amount that they were asking for, $1.64, whatever it was that people turned down, the sheriff said, well, that's not going to be enough. So how's 99 cents going to be enough? What's the purpose of 99 cents? And why 99 instead of 98 or $1.01?
Well,
because it sounds so good, doesn't it? It's nothing.
Yeah, but the whole point of
vote for Tony, then go ahead.
The whole point of getting the levy passed is so that you will become comfortable, or you will adjust your lifestyle to accommodate that.
Frog in hot water.
Right. And then they ratchet it up a little bit more, and then you sacrifice some of the other, what's the right word? It's
soul.
No, yes, no, not that. No, I'm just saying that you're giving up what ordinarily would be free money that you could use for other things, and you're putting it towards this. And then once you normalize in that, and the right term will come back to me. Once you normalize in that, and then they just ratchet it up a little bit at a time. What these people are not getting here is incrementalism. It works. It has worked every place in the country, even nationwide. they do these little incremental steps because they know it's meaningless to get one other piece of gun legislation that has you check this box when you do your background check, because they know ultimately that this is all part of leading to a total confiscation of guns. At some point, that's what ultimately that leads to. So they can do the exact same thing when it comes to property tax. I mean, if they were smart, they would have started out 20 years ago and say, 10 cents.
But
10 cents.
that's why someone such as myself and Mike and other people are saying, look, we need to take a break from proposing these new sales tax, yes, but these new property taxes. Well, that's a little extreme, because there are going to be candidates who say, well, couldn't we kind of compromise and have a kind of a smaller one? First of all, it doesn't make any sense if the other one wasn't enough. But couldn't we do that? I mean, isn't that more reasonable? Look at these unreasonable people. We know what's coming down the line. You know it too. Yeah. And so those who are willing to give it, look, today it's just going to be Czechoslovakia, really.
Right. And, yes, that's right. That's the perfect analogy. It really is.
Okay. Next one, please. Peace in our time.
So they came to their findings without even talking to anyone that was there in the room that could have told them what was discussed or was not discussed.
They knew what was discussed and what was not discussed. They knew it. They didn't need to ask you. It's part of your permanent record. We can't see it, but they did see it. So,
well, and this is her, obviously, she does understand the meaning of this, and she was trying to downplay the findings and the weight
by going like this.
Yeah, the weight of that word findings. She was trying to make that seem less than it is.
All they had to do, it's so simple, is you compare the minutes, the actual minutes, which we don't get to see, with the agenda. That's all. And once the state compared, and they had to subpoena these records. Keep that in mind. These commissioners were not cooperating. And once with the power of the law behind them, they had to subpoena and pry it out of their grip and look and compare the minute. Why would they fight that? Why would they fight? If there's nothing to fight, why fight? Just give it to them. Hey, we're completely above board. No, they had to subpoena it with the order of the law. Right? Once they compared the minutes with the agenda, done deal, over. They were laughing about it at the state. They laughed at these commissioners. We should too. Go ahead, Mike.
So that will be the purpose of the request for a hearing.
No, that's not the purpose of the request for the hearing. Explain why, please, Mike.
Well,
they didn't talk with everybody.
Yeah, listen, this hearing that she's saying is not a hearing at all. It is where they say, okay, well, here's what the penalty is going to be for that.
That's right.
It has nothing to listen. They've already done their findings. So this thing is case closed. The thing is that, listen, Cheryl knows all this. She does. What she's trying to do is she's trying to run out the clock, and everybody will become bored of this particular topic and they can move on down the line. She doesn't want to make a big show of going, they did find us guilty and I'm very, very sorry about that. She doesn't want to do that because that is going to be she'd be beat like a drum with that during the campaign. She doesn't want to do that. She wants to make this, a very minor thing. And so she can just dispatch it quite easily during the campaign. That's what this is all about.
The same day that I announced it, Keith Heck said, well, this mountain is becoming a molehill. Mm-hmm. How can it be becoming a molehill so quickly, Keith? It just was announced. It's already becoming a molehill. They should have just shut up.
Wishful thinking is what that was.
Well, we had no intention to do a show in Russian for you. We had no intention to go back over this thing again because this is a done deal. And it doesn't matter what the state says. A little bit. But it's going to be nothing. We've already told you what they're going to do. It doesn't matter. All that matters is what's going to happen in May. And already, many of us are treating them like they're a dim, dark part of the past. Okay, turn our back on them. We've got better things to do. The only reason that we came and did this show again is because they decided to bring it up and lie. And maybe, I don't know, Mike, maybe they figured that we wouldn't bother to do another show because, isn't it getting sort of boring by now? Yeah, but we're supposed to hold their feet to the fire. Hopefully you don't blame us for taking them to task one more time. Are they going to do it again? What do you think? Are they going to say it again, Mike, after the actual final, penalty phase is over? Are they going to continue talking about this?
I don't know. I suspect they probably will, just because I think of what I would do, and
they're going to do the opposite.
That's the opposite. So,
Well, you have a chance to vote on this once again. Sorry, it is. Yes, it's the same story, but whenever we're not going to allow them to get up at this meeting and start going like this about everything. That's not okay. And it's not okay for them to do it and then do this. It's not okay, because we're still watching them. And we're going to have to watch these characters for a whole year. They're going to suggest some more ordinances. It's coming. They're going to suggest some more really bad ideas, some more rules and regulations that we must all, now you must all wear a hat. Now you must keep your hat in your lap. That's just disgusting. All the different things that they're going to suggest, and we're going to be watching them, and we're going to be telling you about them. And you can skip over those shows if you want to. Oh, no, they're talking about the commissioners being liars. I already know that. Okay, but we're still going to watch them. We're still going to bring it to you. And hopefully you're not going to get upset with us for telling you about it again, because you already know how you're going to vote. Can't we vote now, please?